organizer of the Momiji Cup. The motion for this round is discussed the fourth Charities Adoption Agency to allow same-sex couples to foster and adopt children. Without any further ado, I'd like to call Prime Minister to open your case within 7 minutes. Yeah.
The most vulnerable actors that we have to protect in this motion by the government is children. And for children, this motion is uniquely important and make it better, and that's why I'm proud to propose this motion. And what I'm going to talk about is mainly 2 points. And first one is about how children suffer from status quo. And second one is preferably it's unfair for only same-sex people to deprive the right of raising children, even if the decision by Charities Adoption Agency. And I'm going to talk about it one by one. The first is about how children suffer from the status quo. And before that, I'm going to explain what Charities Adoption Agency is. They treat most vulnerable actors, that means children who can't raise their voice, where to live, what kind of Charities Adoption Agency they want to live in, alright. And Charities Adoption Agency only has a strong power toward these children who can't raise their voice, who can't expand, who can't present their will, and they decide the whole life. That means they decide because they decide what kind of family they ask to adopt, alright. And for the relationship between Charities Adoption Agency and children is very, very different because Charities Adoption Agency has strong power compared to the children. And the second is about responsibility of the Charities Adoption Agency. Because of the characterization that I have mentioned, Charities Adoption Agency have strong responsibility for protect their children's rights. And that means, in that sense, their main priority should be protecting children or making children living in the better and better environment. And that's the first priority of any other kind of religious belief or other right is out of this debate. And so main criteria is whether or not it's good for children. So if the Charities Agency found the good, that means they are very eager to educate the mentally or physical rights, and they are affordable. We are strongly believe that the Charities Adoption Agency should ask them to adopt, and that is regardless of the belief of situations like that. And thirdly, in the status quo, what happened? And the children's situation is the first analysis. In the children who are abandoned by their own parents are in very, very severe situations. That means because just abandoned by their own parents, it itself is a very, very severe, serious mental harm. And also, because of that, when to adopt, they just stay in some kind of small room and they just stay together, and their situation without parents is very, very big compared to the ordinary children who have both parents. And because when they're young, they feel all happiness with their parents. The parents always take care of you. However, by living in a small room, by abandoned by their own parents, their situation is very, very different from this kind of thing. In their mental harm, because they are immature and their mental is not so strong, they have weak mentality, so the mental harm is much bigger and that should be protected. And in the status quo because the religious adoption agency prioritized religious belief over what the children first kind of believe. The result is those who can foster by in terms of money, in terms of eagerness like that, because they are gay men, because they are gay couple, they decided to deprive this kind of family of the chance to adopt, and that is a great harm for children who have in a serious situation in the status quo, and that should be protected, what I think. And why is it important? Because, as I mentioned at the first phrase, children cannot choose where to go. They don't want to go religious adoption agency first of all. That is one possibility. And also, if going to this kind of equipment, this kind of room, they never escape because they are children. They cannot escape. And the actor who can make change is only religious adoption agency in this motion. And because as long as their ultimate goal, the religious adoption agency, the ultimate goal is very responsible for whole their future, whole children's future who have longer years to live. And in that point, that taking this motion is very important for, first of all, for children. And second, principle level, it's unfair for only same-sex people deprive the right of raising children for religious spirit just state. Because we don't deny the right to have belief for the religious adopting country. We are still okay to have kind of belief that gay couples shouldn't be accepted. However, taking action is a completely different problem compared to just having a belief. Analogy here is when killing people, it's okay to have killing people is the ultimate thing, it's a great thing. However, they never take the action to it, and because taking action risks massive practical harm for each society, for each individual, and in the status quo, even gay people who believe in God, who stick to the Christian belief, and for these people, they have reasonable incentive to go religious adoption agencies to some kind of children, because gay people have more incentive to adopt because they are gay and they cannot give birth to their own children. So their willingness is very big, and we think the religious adoption agency have no right to deprive the satisfaction right, and that's why I propose this motion.
Thanks for your part. I'd like to go ahead and go over your case within 7 minutes.
In this debate, we think we need to recognize there's other adoption, there's other kind of like government or hospital, the adoption of children. We don't think it's the only way that children will be, a religious adoption agency is the only thing children will be adopted. And also, we think it's important to protect those people's religious, what they are thinking. We're very happy to oppose this motion. So today, I'll be explaining mainly two things. Firstly, what the religious adoption agency is and how they are constructed and what the incentive of those people, and why it will be bad if we. Secondly, I will be explaining why it's not justifiable at the first place to force them to adopt, force them to allow those things. So. But before moving on, I'd like to clarify what the previous speaker talked about. So previous speaker talked about mainly two things. First thing is that children won't be able to choose their parents, and they are really poor. Like they will be trapped into very poor place. And three responses here. Firstly, actually against those gay people, and also we don't think like there's so much scarce of the parents who will adopt it. And secondly, we don't think like religious adoption, even though forcing me to, we don't think like the religious adoption agency won't like will put children into poor situation like they don't have very much autonomy or something, because their incentive is to save children, right? If that is true, why like will they put them into like bad situation? And we think like sadly, even if everything was true, we think it's better if we can give them at least a place to sleep, at least a place they can feel safety, rather than leaving them in the outside. And also, their side also claim that those gay people won't be able to have their children. But we don't think so. As I said in my introduction, we strongly think that there's other religion that is not believing in that gay is bad or something, will be able to like have the same kind of facility, and also there's NGO or the government who will be able to provide those gay people with the children they want and they hope to want, so that we don't think it's really mutual exclusive here. So I like to move on to my argument. What the religious adoption agency actually is. We think that there's two aims for those agencies. First, they are against abortion. They don't want the children to die, so that they are making facilities that they can adopt children and raise them up and give the parents who want children. And also, secondly, their aim is to protect children, because those religious agencies want to protect those who are weak. We think they are making this facility. And what kind of fund or what kind of money will be able to those religious adoption agencies to be run is that those people who have some same ideology of this adoption system will fund to those agencies. So their further incentive is first to save children, and also they want to contribute because they want to protect their ideology of like in the case of conservative country, right? So that their incentive is in order to follow the religion. And also those conservative Christian is believing in that gay is not good because Bible is telling so. So what will happen if if the government forced those agencies to allow gay couples to adopt those situation is that because government is forcing and because it will somehow contradict to the ideology the fund is having, we think there will be less fund for those facility agency, and we don't think like as many children as possible will be able to save in their side of the paradigm, and we think it's harmful because those children who don't have parents often need help of the agency because of the violent action from the parents, won't be able to as much as save in our side of in their side of the paradigm compared to our side where those agencies will still exist. So finally, I'd like to move on to why explaining why furthermore governments facing those religious adoption agencies to change their ideology cannot be justified in this case. We think there will be massive harm if the government forced those people who have already ideology to against those gay people or not believing that. We think they won't be able to, if the government forced, they won't be able to continue to believing, they will be forced to go against their belief, and we think it's massively harm because they feel like they are oppressed. They are oppressed by the government, and we think this oppression feeling or this feeling of being guilt will continue in their future, so that we are saying it's bad. So, furthermore, why the government doesn't have justification to force religion adoption agency to do this act is that because when the government can intervene to religious agency is that when those agency is actually others' life. But we don't think this case will be adopted in this motion. Why? Because we think that there's still opportunity for those gay people to be able to have the children they hope to born, and also and we don't think it's necessarily those for religious adoption agencies to get those children. So I've talked about firstly what the religious adoption agency is and why it's important to protect those people's ideology. We beg to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I'd like to call DPM to extend your case within 7 minutes.
Chairperson, we respect the right of individuals to have their own religion and to stick by it. But we think that religious adopting agencies, as actors who have control over the lives of the most vulnerable actors in our society, children, have a unique responsibility to act in the interests of those children, even if it goes against their own beliefs. And so two extensions coming from Deputy Prime Minister. First, about when we allow religious adoption agencies to not allow same-sex couples to adopt children, that eventually can lead to harm for children, and therefore and the criteria that to be adopted when choosing what kind of parents adopt those children should be based on how much can they support those children, or how much do they want to love and support these children. And second point, about why we respect the right of religion. Religion itself is not absolute, especially when it comes to actions that go against the public interest. So before that, all rebuttals will be mainly integrated into my argument. But first, one rebuttal towards the opening opposition. So they talked about if we take this motion, people are going to feel betrayed and they're going to invest less in these adoption centers, right? But we don't think that's necessarily true. And even if it does happen, not to the extent that they're trying to make it sound like. Because we think that religious adoption agencies, they're eventually working for the Christian good, right? The Christian belief that all children are important, that we need to help these poor children who lost their parents and give them good homes and good families. And we believe that this is the incentive that helped create these adoption centers in the first place, right? And we don't think that just because some people are not okay with same-sex marriage, or some people are not okay with gay couples, that hate is going to override that social importance of protecting those children, right? Because we don't think that just because somebody thinks, oh, I hate gay people, so I'm going to let all these children not have anywhere to go. We don't think that's going to happen, because that is also fundamentally against the Christian beliefs that they hold dear. And we believe that the majority in cases won't really care, right? For example, when the Pope said he was fine with same-sex marriage, it didn't cause a huge drop in the number of Catholics around the world, right? We don't think it has, we think that religion is largely flexible, and even if it isn't, the harms that they talk about will not happen. These religious agencies will still have funding, And so moving on to my arguments, about my first argument about how this creates, how using sexuality as a criteria leads to a worse life for children. So we think that really there are two types of harms that are happening to children who do not have parents, right? First of all is the mental harm, the simple feeling feeling that, hey, I go to school, everybody around me has parents, they all come on parents come to school day, and they're always talking about what they do at home. I don't have that. I don't have that family. I don't have all those funny stories about dads or dad jokes or like mom jokes that all my friends are talking about. We think that makes them feel left out and alone, right? And that we believe that that's a massive emotional harm for these children. And second of all, because these churches tend to work on things like charities, right? We don't think they have the resources to like give them as much as a good life as like two loving parents could, right? Like because they don't have as much resources, because they live on things like charity or donations, we think that they generally have to put like 10 children in this big room with like bunk beds, or like can't give them like really good education, or with give them music lessons or things like that. We could already see this in places like orphanages across the world, right? Where these instances of abuse are popping up all over the place. And we can see that one thing they have in common is that there's too many children and too little people to take care of those children, or too little resources to allocate to those children. The simple fact is that a church that lives on donations and lives on social welfare cannot focus those resources to the children, give them the good life that they could have. And we believe that at least when these children have like two, even if it's a gay couple or if it's a not gay couple, when they have two loving parents, those parents who have passed like the criteria that these religious adoption agencies can, they can focus those resources on those children. They can give them unconditional love. They can give them good schooling, music lessons, and give them like something to talk about at school, and make them feel not left out, right? And we think that's really important. We believe that when we allow these agencies to handle such vulnerable lives, the criteria that they choose when choosing the parents for those children should be, can these parents support these children? Can these parents make these children happy? It should not be, are these parents gay or not, right? Because as my first speaker clearly told you, these children did not choose to be put in these religious adoption centers. There was no consent to this, right? We don't think that the religious adoption centers have a right to say, oh, because it's our religion, we're going to deny you of the chance to go to a good school quickly, or like get good parents right away, or to have the happiness that you could have had. So we think that this is unjustifiable. And second, moving on to my second point about how religion is not absolute, right? So we believe that while we allow each individual to believe what they want to be, for example, I can think I want to kill a person, but I can't really kill a person, right? Or like a religious, for example, there's a quote in the Bible about killing albinos. We think it's okay for people to believe about killing albinos, but we don't really allow them to do that, right? We think it's one thing to believe in something, and another thing to do something that has practical harms to society, right? And we believe that in this case, they have to work in the biggest public interest, especially for children. So we think there are really two practical harms that come from this, right? By allowing them to have their freedom of religion, first of all, they're taking the chance for children to have better lives for themselves, because they're adopting this unnecessary criteria about sexuality, which doesn't really speak for what kind of life that child is going to have. And second of all, they're also harming these gay people who have we think the reason that the point that these gay people are coming to these Catholic religious adoption agencies in the first place, because they're kind of religious, right? They have this belief in church or God or something. Otherwise, they just would have gone to some other place, right? And we think that the fact that they have so much faith and they actually went to these agencies to begin with proves that if they are rejected and said, you know what, we don't accept you for your sexuality, you can't have children, we're going to deprive you of all the joy of having a child, even though you so desperately wanted one and you were so desperately devoted to the Christian faith, we think that that is a harm to those people. That is an emotional harm. And we believe that while churches are free to believe anything they want, they do not have the right to harm children's potential future. They do not have the right to harm these gay couples and to deprive them of their lifelong happinesses. And this is not about whether other agencies exist, right? We think that it's about that company, whether that religious adoption agency has that right. And for these reasons, for the children and for gay couples, proud to oppose.
Thanks very much. I'd like to call the audience to their cases into the meeting. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we strongly believe that religious agency will decrease in their paradigm because, as the DPM said, not so many believers of Catholic cares really about Bible. So that's why only the conservative people are likely to fund, especially to those religious agencies a lot, because they are really against those abortions and they really want those to save those babies who will be sacrificed because of those abortions. And so, three things in my speech. Firstly, I'm going to rebut to the government's argument that they're saying that the babies will suffer because there are too many babies and will not be adopted in our side. And secondly, I'm going to rebut about the argument that they said that children are going to suffer because they cannot voice out or something. And then I'm going to go on and explain more how those religious believers, why for religious believers those religious agency is very important and how it will actually harm in their side. So let me move on to my first argument. So the government side said that because there are too many babies, if the religious agency won't accept gay couples, the babies will not have parents in the first place, and it will be really suffer for them. So three responses. Firstly, as my partner told you, this is not necessarily true because there are a lot of conservative believers who is anti-abortion, and they have a huge incentive to donate to create a lot of religious agency. If the government can see that Catholic will have huge incentive to do the good for the poor or the vulnerable, this will also happen more. And secondly, even if it is true, we think that there are still alternatives for the babies. So there are charities besides those religious agencies which is willing to accept babies, and we don't think those harm that they're saying will really be happening. But thirdly, even if we concede that there are no alternatives, we don't think that will be a huge harm compared to our harm, because our harm is that those religious agency will not exist in the first place. Therefore, all the babies will not be able to get parents at all. Versus their harm is that some babies will have one or two babies having no parents because of not accepting those one or two same-sex couples. And we don't think a lot of same-sex couples actively or often come to those religious agencies. So, and my second argument. So they say that children are going to suffer because they cannot voice out, and they cannot choose their parents. So two responses. So firstly, we don't think this is necessarily true because children will going to love their parents through the procedures of being together, right? They were going to eat food together. They're going to sleep together, and the parents will take them to school, or they will just really care about those. They will care about those children, and this will uniquely happen in these religious agency because those who give their babies to religious agency is likely to do that according to their Catholic beliefs. So they couldn't have abortion because it really makes you feel bad, right? So the babies who will be adopted in those religious agency is likely to be very young in age, and so it is more likely that babies don't have capacity to really think which parents is that you like, or which parents that it is better for them. And secondly, even if we concede that babies will have some kind of consciousness and they don't want to be adopted by same-sex couple, compare the harm that in their side they would not get without those religious agency, they will not get any parents. Versus in our side, at least having a parent to rely on and to rely on, because and those same-sex couples tend to be really nice and very willing to take good care of you. Why? Because they decided to go through adoption, even if they're not biologically connected, or because they really want children, and therefore. Being adopted by those same-sex couples, it is much. We think that it is much more better than having no parents and to be adopted. And so therefore, we don't think that those babies, the harms that the babies get is not so big. So let me move on to my argument. So why for religious believers, those religious agency is very important. So, and how it will actually harm in their side. So for religious believers, so imagine they are raped or they're going through unexpected pregnancy. They will have the feeling, I cannot tell my mother, or I don't have any money to raise, and also they will have the feeling that I cannot go through abortion because it really goes against their beliefs. So, but what the religious agency will do to you is that they will say that it is okay that you cannot go through abortion. Okay.
Okay, so the same-sex couple can have the possibility of giving a child a better life by adopting them. Why does the agency have the right to choose that, to not give that child a better life?
So okay, I'm going to explain that when comparing your side. So. Moving on. What happens in our side is that the religious agency can say it is okay that you cannot go through abortion, and you cannot you are having unexpected pregnancy, and we understand that you are believing Catholic, and it is not completely not your fault. So what happens in their side if those religious agency does not exist is that those vulnerable women have to start the normal agency who will not understand about their beliefs, and they will just say to you, why you cannot go through abortion, or why did you had unexpected pregnancy? And we think that these are very core harm for those individuals who believe in Catholic, and we believe that those religious agency is very necessary. Therefore, we are very happy to oppose.
Thanks very much. Now I'd like to call the member of government to open your case within 7 minutes. Yeah.
Gentlemen, the opening side fell into deadlock of discussing children's futures and religious agencies' intention. However, they did not answer to the questions: one, why children might be better off in our side of on our side, and second of all, why the government has a special legitimacy to force religious agencies to allow same-sex children to foster and adopt children. So these questions weren't answered, and we will be the ones who will be providing this debate with a special contribution of answering to these crucial questions. But first of all, I would like to rebuttal against the opening opposition. So the opening opposition has mentioned that religious belief should be the utmost prioritization because of conservative groups. However, as the OG said, the Pope admitted same-sex marriage, but there was no huge objection, and that point proves that religious conservatives are being flexible in the area of sexual diversity, and therefore these kind of changes would be gradually accepted in our even if we take this motion. However, furthermore, even if there is objection, one, conservatives are minorities to start with. As long as liberals and neutrals are accepting the Pope's proposal, it is okay. Those people would think that we live in an area of cultural diversity. It is okay accept such notions, and they will continue to donate money to save the children. Because first of all, they have the incentive to save the children, because from the Catholic notion, it is important to save the most vulnerable. Second rebuttal. In fact, second rebuttal on the same point. In fact, we say that this motion will create a new social discourse, uniquely that same-sex couples have the capability of carrying children, which would be an initiating wake-up call for conservatives for a future change in this era of sexual diversity. So now, having deconstructing their points, I will now move on to our two crucial points in this debate. One, why allowing same-sex couples to adopt children is better for the children themselves. And second of all, why the government has the legitimacy of forcing agencies. So, ladies and gentlemen, the opening government only came up with the idea that these same-sex couples can be financially capable, children should be able to choose their, well, children were involved in unfortunate events, and therefore they should be cared by same-sex couples as well because they have the capability to do so. However, the opening government lacked analysis on why children might especially become happier in our paradigm, and this motion is beneficial to be taken for the children. So, the characterization of same-sex couples. Same-sex couples, biologically speaking, are unfortunately incapable of having children. Therefore, their only option is to adopt children. However, at the same time, children are the symbols of one couple's love, and therefore, these kind of same-sex couples also want to advantage from advantage by having the symbol and representing their love through the children. Therefore, however, in the status quo, they can only apply for adoptions through normal institutions, which are unfortunately extremely competitive. Thus, they are not always granted with their will. However, religious institutions that are extremely big have multitudinous believers, have extreme influence over the world. These kind of religious institutions have money, they have abundant money because they receive tons of donations, and at the same time they can save many children because they cover a wide area of region. By adopting from these religious institutions, couples would be more likely to be able to adopt children because because religious institutions have protect many children to start with. Furthermore, even if these couples cannot agree with Catholic belief, this is a response to the opening opposition, but even if these couples cannot agree with Catholic belief, they are people who biologically cannot have children, who are the symbols of love, even though they want them so bad. Why? Because children are a symbol of a couple's love. Therefore, we believe that because these couples want these children so badly, they will concede to the beliefs of Catholicism. They want children so bad, and they will take extreme care because children mean so much for these same-sex couples. So, moving on to the the closing government's second point. Why the government has the special legitimacy of forcing agencies to allow same-sex children to foster and adopt children. So why? So children, as I've been emphasizing in this speech, is the symbol of a couple's love. That's why for people in general, having children means happiness. That's why children are protected with immense care because they represent the pure happiness of people. The government has a principal responsibility to save the right for the children to have children. And that is why for people who are poor and even incapable of raising children on their own, are provided with special support because they are recognized of their right to raise children, which mean the couple's happiness. So same-sex couples should have the same right of being assured of having children, even though they are biologically incapable to do so, because that means their happiness. And the government, as they assure for not the same-sex couples, they should do the same for same-sex couples as well. As long as they're people, they have fundamental human rights. They should be treated in an equal way. So, the opening side had no explanation of especially allowing same-sex people being allowed in this motion, and there was a deadlock of the will of children of not consenting to go into such families. However, this kind of emotion cannot be measured, as emotions cannot be assumed of the children in the first place. We have provided this debate with a special criteria, with a new perspective of why the government principally has the justification of intervening these religious adoption agencies, and why children may well be happier on the government side's paradigm. Therefore, we are proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call a vote to open your case in the community here.
We strongly believe that government has to keep in order to protect the those children. Government has to keep that religious adoption agency keep alive and keep that those agencies are supported by the people. That is a very important point, because those agencies is someone who can protect those children without having governmental support, just having the support from other people. And we think those agencies as doing the law to protect the children, and we think as a government we need to make a place that those agencies can keep alive. That's why we think this taking this motion will make less people to support that agency and actually destroy that agency itself, and decrease the chance that those children can be adopted and can be happy. That's why we closing the petition strongly oppose this motion. So in my speech, I'd like to talk about the opening the petition talked about religious adoption as religious adoption agency is supported by people who believe that religion, but they were adopted from whole government, open government. Why those people will actually stop supporting that religious agency just by taking this motion. So as an extension, we'd like to talk about that point. So, but before that, let me have some rebuttal to the government side. Well, government side is talking about talking about like children and talked about this motion from perspective of children and parents. We think there are about the children. We think there are so many people who want to adopt their children because in their context, saving children is something good. Adopting children is something good based on their religious belief. So we think even if we do not foster the adoption of same-sex couple, there are so many people who want to adopt that children based on the belief that saving children is something good. So we think we believe that even if we do not, without taking this motion, those children can be saved based on the religious belief. And secondly, about the same-sex couple, we believe there are so many alternative ways that those same-sex couple can have children. Ordinary religious, ordinary adoption agency, not only religious agency. That's why we think those people and those couples can have opportunity to get children. That's why we don't think that is a problem. So moving on to our point. So opening government
We talked about like religious agency is supported by people who are believing that religion. So, but what was doubted by the government side was that even if we take this motion, saving children is something good. So those people who are believing that religion will continuously keep funding and supporting that religious agency. However, we think that if we take this motion, like if we accept, if for those people who are believing, who are denying the existence of same-sex, the reason why those people deny the existence of same-sex couple is that the doctrine says there should not be the same-sex couples, right? So that means that what the doctrine says is what is the same as what the God says. So for the people who are believing that religion doctrine is something very important. So that means that denying, accepting the same-sex couple is like denying what the God said, saying that what God says is not true. So, but however, for those people, for those Christian people or religious people, God is the most respectable and absolute existence. So denying God is somehow much more like something very bad for them than compared to not accepting those same-sex couples. So we think they do not really want to deny what the God says. So in order not to deny what the God says, they will stop. We think they will stop supporting that religious adoption agency. So in the first place, the reason why those religious agency, those people are supporting religious agency is just to represent the idea that of religious. So we think if that is contracted in the doctrine, they're gonna stop supporting that. And why that is very important? Because we see like very few other people is supporting religious agency, we believe. Because if those ordinary people, not religious people, want to support those agency, they are supporting those normal adoption agency. So we see in that occasion the majority of people who are supporting the religious adoption agency is a person who are believing those religion. So if those majority of people stop supporting that religious adoption agency, they're gonna simply lose money to maintain their training law of adoption. So we think in their paradigm, this is very bad for children and parents. Even if children want to be adopted by other people, and even if there are parents who want to adopt children, even if just demand and supply is there, because we do not have religious adoption agency, they cannot have opportunity to be able to be adopted. That is very bad for many children that is existing that do not have parents. For those parents and children to be happy, we think we are very proud to support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to call the bench whip to summarize your case within 7 minutes there.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Positive gratitude in this debate. They described how seriously children are suffering under the current situation and why under the current situation. However, overall didn't explain why as the government we have the legitimate reason to force all of the religious organization to take that actions, right? And so I'd like to explain why it is better for the organization to take that action, and why the government have the legitimacy to do that, right? And the opposition side say that they talked about the right of the conservative people. However, they didn't explain why changing creed is always bad so for those people and organization, right? Historically, they have been changed the creed to some extent, considering the current situation, right? So we think that in the situation, if we consider the current situation, we don't think it is always a bad thing for the religious groups or the conservative people to change the creed, right? So I'd like to compare the right of those conservative people and the right of the same-sex couple, and what I'd like to explain why the right of same-sex couple overrides the right of the conservative people. It is the clear extension from the closing government. Before moving to my argument, I'd like to give rebuttal to the CEO. The CEO has been exaggerating on the point in which religious institution would be demolished in our parliament. Right? However, it is not true. Two responses. Firstly, we've already told you that the conservatives are minorities, right? In this era of in the current situation, the minority is likely to accommodate in the idea and donate for the children, right? And secondly, even if they object to talking this motion, in their doctrine it says that saving the vulnerable people is one of the most important creed of those religions, right? So considering that, compare the fundamental creed of the religious group, the claim of the CEO is not necessarily true. So moving on my first argument, so I'd like to extend my previous speaker's point, and I'd like to explain why her point is important in this field. Firstly, she talked about why children get better life in our world, right? And so I'd like to explain why it is important for the religious organization. Two reasons. Firstly, it is, as I already told you, it is one of the most important, creed to have the most vulnerable people in the current situation. However, more importantly, this, as my partner already told you, this proposal make wake-up call, right? It is clear extension from the closing government, right? In religious groups, there are a lot of creed and beliefs, right? However, if no one can the right to arbitrarily decide which creed or belief is valid and which creed is correct, right? However, if we take this proposal can be the wake-up call, right? Opposition side say that talking about the right of the conservative people, and however as I already told you, they didn't explain why change the creed is so bad, right? However, but more importantly, if we take this proposal, they can review what they're thinking right under the current situation, right? If we take this proposal, those people can continuously asking the other people why our right is more important, and why their right is not so good, right? So by those process, all people in religious group can compete each other and try to find the correct answer of their religions, right? So in those situations, we can say that it is important for the religious groups to have the children in order to give the new wake-up call in the religious groups, right? And secondly, the second extension from my partner is the why it is legitimate for the government side, right? All the scientists describe the serious situation of the children and the same-sex couple. However, they fail to explain why, as the government, we have legitimate reason to force the religious group to do that, right? So I'd like to explain why it is important in this case, right? So we think government have the legitimacy to force the religious group to take some kind of action. So and so in this debate, I'd like to compare the right of the conservative people and the same-sex group, right? Firstly, I'd like to explain the right of the conservative people, right? We think forcing organization groups to take this for policy does not automatically mean that all prohibiting all people to believing their own creed, right? However, but rather, as I already told you, we think we can, even in your paradigm, they can, pass what they correct, right? In those situations, we think, the right of the conservative people will be mitigated, right? And secondly, I'd like to talk about the right of the same-sex couples, right? Having a children, yes. Go.
Yes, we think conservative Catholic is maybe dominant agency in adoption, but considering the fact that there's other religion and even working Catholic, why do you think you need to politically force them to allow this situation?
We think we consider there are a lot of religion in the world. However, the main character of this debate, from the opening heart, the main character of this debate is those Jesus groups. So I explain that point. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the right of same-sex couples. Having children is a fundamental right of all people. However, same-sex couple infringe that right simply because they're Catholic, or simply because they believe, right? Although they may sometimes realize that they are gay after they decided to believe that religion. So in those situations, we think that because the religion is not so the absolute thing, so we should prioritize the fundamental rights of those individual people. So for these reasons, we have to take this debate.
Thanks for more electrical question to finalize this debate within 7 minutes. Yeah.
Children should be safe, should be protected by the society. But my partner said that, as my partner explained, that by taking this policy means that to reduce the number of the activity of these religious adopting agency, because by taking this policy means to contradict to their doctrine. So we think that it is true that religious adopting agency have those children who do not have the parents, but we think that by taking this policy means that to run the risk of corrupting these agencies. So we cannot understand this necessity of running the risk of corrupting these agencies.
On that point, why would religious believers stop donating when they feel obliged to save the most vulnerable children who are protected under the scope of religious agencies, under their fundamental doctrine?
We think that they do this activity because they try to follow the doctrine of their religion. We think that the motivation or incentive to help these children is to follow the doctrine. So this is the point that we want to stress. That we think that we should protect their incentive, their motivation to follow their doctrine. So we think that taking this policy means that force these activists to do what contradict to their doctrine. So we think that taking this policy will decrease their activity. Second, in status quo, there are many alternatives that because there are other organizations that adopt children to those who need who want children. So we cannot understand why it is uniquely important to force the religious adopting agency to do that, because taking this policy may decrease the number of their activity.
On that point.
No. And secondly, next I will talk about is really the policy help the children. We think that children should be protected, but we think that in status quo, these agencies can help the children enough because they can get parents which is normal couple, right? And the government side said that we can save children by give them parents, but in status quo, we can save children by adopting to the normal couple. So we cannot understand why gay couple or the same-sex couple is better than those normal couples. Or we think that we shouldn't force their the same-sex couples to nurture the children by even if we run the risk of decreasing the activity. And finally, I will talk about the principle. The government said that government had legitimacy to taking this policy, but it is not true because they have the premise that that religion or doctrine of religion will change, but it is not true because they said that they change the way of thinking, but it is not true because what they changed only related to scientific viewpoint, right? They never change the value that they stand. So because religion is to accept the value of the religion. So trying to change the religion is equal to excluding the doctrine of religion from society. So we think that taking this policy will infringe the right or liberty of religion because this taking this policy taking this policy means to force changing the doctrine of religion. So we think that the liberty of religion should be protected. So so in principle level, government do not have the legitimacy to take this policy. So in conclusion, we think that the government side did not explain the uniqueness of running the risk of decreasing the activity by religious adopting agency to increase the number of same-sex couples to raise children. We think that and in principle level, we think that government don't have a legitimacy because government should protect freedom of belief or liberty of religion. So for this reason, we oppose this motion. Thank you.
まあ、ランゲージフリーディスカッションする？
あ、いいんじゃない？
分からなかったら質問してもらってる。で、そっか。パッてですよ。 55まで55だったらいいです。よせーの。これがオープニング、これいいか。あれ、まだ、ちょっと、こっちにまとうわ。
この2はどうでもいいです。
なるほどね。モルモルと僕が一緒で、モルミツ、ジェイミーがオープニング系か。
大体はどっちでも。
これどっちでもいいと。まあ、どっちでもいいから、ここにしとくよ。なるほどね。まあ、ここが僕一番なんだけどな、ここ。待ってよ、まあ、王子アジアのとりあえず決定でいいかな。はい。まあ、上手だった。
王子は。
上手でした。はい。で、次どういこうか。まあ、4位が、まあ、いかんせんかぶってる的な話でいいかな、大体。違う言い方しようとしてるけど、まあ、言ってたよねっていうのがでかいかなと思って。
頑張ったんだけど。
そう、頑張っては、すごく頑張ってはいた。すごくね、ちゃんとめちゃくちゃクラリファイしないから、すごく頑張ってたんだけど、ちょっと似てたんかなってとこで、Oと CG で迷うのはもうすごいわかる。すっごくわかるわ。どういうふうにとか。
セカンドスリーカー多分混乱してる。コントラスト。
なんだろう。
どっからいけばいいかな。O の貢献をちょっと一回、O と CG の貢献をちょっと触ってみますか。
まるで。
はい。O からなんだけど、まあ、オルタナをとりあえず提出したと。提出しながら、ファンドがまあ減ると思ったか思ってないからだいぶ変わる気がするな。大体のプランのハームがファンドが減るか減らないかになってたと思ってて、減るから、まあ、そもそもエージェンシー必要なくなっちゃって、チャリティーにハームフルで、減った時のハームはすごい良かった。減った時のハームはすごい良かったから、じゃあどんだけ減りそうかっていうところで、結構、そんなやらないのかなって思っちゃったので、まあそんなに実用強化しないというのが僕の話で、そんなやらないのかなって思った理由が、まあ、OG も言ってて、まあ、CG も言ってた、その OG からまず出てたのは、まあ、プロテクトバーナブルもドグマに書いてあるし、超大事だから、それを考えると、まあ、ちょっとやるかもしれんけど、そんなめちゃくちゃ減らへんっていう話。で、まあ、そんなあんま減らへんのかなとちょっと思ったのと、まあ、CG から、まあ、OG からもちょっと出てたけど、まあ、リージョン言うてちょっとフレックスなところもあるんじゃないっていう話があって、ちょっとなんかその、フランスが書いてるように、まあ、ちょっと頑張ればいけるんじゃないっていうところが、まあ、めちゃくちゃ強いかなとは思わなかったけど、まあ、大川のレスポンスもそんななかったし、そのフレックスブルチェンジのところに。そう考えると、まあ、just because doctrine に書いてあるから、なんかその大事って言ってるやつよりかは、まあ、普通に、もうちょっとだけ分析出したガバメントサイドの、そんな減らんくねっていう話が結構刺さってるのかなと思って、O がちょっと、ってなって、やったっていうのが僕のあるんだけど、その辺が違うかな。その辺は一緒。日本語大丈夫かな。
大丈夫。なんか私にとっては、なんか確かになんか O の話は残ってないんだけど、but like CG didn't actually bring anything. なんか O は at least なんか立っててで壊したんだ。but then like CG didn't like everything that CG said. だから rebuttals も全く同じし、なんか本当に新しいものとしては本当になんか wake up call と increase discourse だけ。でそれもインパクトで説明しなかった。ただディスコースだけで説明したんだけど、so even though なんか O の話は結局残ってなかったんだけど、まず it's an opening team so we cannot respond。で2番目、at least なんか立ってたと思う。でも私のなんか点数をつくなら O と CG はなんか多分1点の差。
CG 高めにつけた意見も聞く。
確かにディスコースとかの話ってそんなに強くないと思うのが僕の確かなんですけど、僕 CG の取り方としては結構そのセームセックスカープのインタレストに関してフォーカスをしてて、そのなんか結構リリジャスアダプションエージェンシーってすごく貴重な子供をなんか実際受け取るソースだってことを考えたときに、結構そういうドミナントなインスティチューションが割とその王子の言ってるような割とガバガバあんまり良くないクライテリア、セックスっていうクライテリアを使ってその子供をセームセックスカップルに預けないってことは結構しんどいことだよねってことを考えたときに、そのなんかセームセックスカップルの権利を保障するためには結構こうやって大切なのかなっていうのは CG の説明でユニークに良かったなって思った。
CG がサインポストがチルドレンだったくせに実際ペアレンツのインタレストをめちゃくちゃ言ってて、まあそれでまあ確かにある程度チルドレンを持つことって結構ある程度大事なライトなんかなってとこを示して、その時にこのエージェンシーが たまには必要かもしれへんぐらい、まあ、OG のやつを引き継ぎつつ、まあ、コンペティティブとは言ってたけど、他があんまシリーズのそんな感じだったけど、まあなんか必要な時に超ファンダメンタルワイドがあるかなってとこは足したと思ってて、それがある程度僕はミーニングフリー足したと思ってるから、まあ、その往々の結構ちょっとパパパーンってやられたやつよりかはちょっとあるのかなと思ったんだけど。
なんか僕は逆にそこは分かったとはいえ Why Uniquely のところでモーションにそこになんでだからセミセックスその Religious Adoption Agency が needs to be forced to allow 部分まではエンゲージしてなかったな。
だからオルタナがあるっていう話が OG の話は切れてないけど CG の話は切れてるってことだな。
そうそうそう、
まあそこだよな。
でしかもその言ってた貴重なリソースっていうのもそんなに出てなかったくないですか。なんかコンペティティブとは言ってたけどそれぐらいですよね。
それを取らないっていうのは全然悪くないです。
ただなんだろう、一応 OG がさちゃんとなんかリリジャスリーにある程度のアイデオロジーを思ったとこからもらいたいやつらがいてみたいな、そこでゲットするやつもいてっていう話のまあ延長線上である程度デマンドがあるっていう前提で見たときに、まあ、その時そこで得たいそのカップルが得られなくなるっていうのは OG のコントリビューションももちろんあるけど、一応それを取ればインパクトまでは落ちきるかなと思った。ほんでだから OCG もね、でもね、CG をどんくらい評価するか分からないから、応募の評価は大体一緒な気がするな、じゃあ。大体一緒で、CG を上げるか下げるか。CG をどう
なんか私にとってさ、もしなんか CO が全くコントリビューションがなかった年で取れるなら、じゃあ CG も同じふうになんかコントリビューションがないと。
CO と同じぐらいってこと？
なんか CO が大体さ、なんか綺麗ななんか説明方できたんじゃん。So like they had a lot of logic, but then essentially it wasn't necessary to prove the point that they already proved. なんか確かに they proved it to like 120%, but it was already 70% proved in なんか all in like なんか member speech でしょ。で、like compared to CO, like CG actually has less なんか mechanism. わかる？ And the amount that they overlap with their opening teams is around the same. だからここが4位ならここはなんか必ず3位だったんで。
それ
は OG が結構いろんなこといっぱい往々に比べて言ってる部分があると思うので、それは違いないような気がする。
それが1個と、僕は CO は結局一緒だったけど CG は結構違う視点を入れてくれたと思ってて、OG からはそのペアレンツ目線でペアレンツとかセムセックス目線で超大事っていう話はあんましなかったかなみたいな、そのリリジョンで思うことと実際にディスクリミネートなことをするのは違うんだよみたいなエグザンプルを用いながら、そのあいつらは子供のことをちゃんと考えてそのちゃんとしたクライテリア選ばないといけないよっていう視点からはいろいろ言ってくれてたけど、そのペアレント目線、セムセックス目線でじゃあなんでそこのペアレンツがそのエージェントを使う、それらが使うっていうチョイスが大事なのかっていうところまでは言えてないなって思った時に CG が、まあ、なんかサインポスタルはチルドレンとか言いつつなんかちゃんとバイオロジカリーを持てない時にここはだいぶ大切な時もあるよねぐらい、まあ、そこのメカニズム立ってないって言うとどうせもあるんだけど、あるよねぐらいって言ってその
だからなんか残ってるんだけどちょっとアサーションベースと残ってないんだけど自分がちゃんと思ってるどっちにする。
なんか I understand that they were taking new arguments だけどその new arguments をどれ一つなんかそこのインパクトまで持ち込めてないっていう部分に関しては大してコントリビューションはないのかなと思ったんですよ。あとリップのロールどうでした？なんかそのロールフルフィルメントの部分
それからディエロもダメだ
まあそうだね。
ビップ僕アクロットでビップかと思ったけど
でもディアルールよりビップがダメ
なんかさ CG から頑張って出そうとしてたさ、そのなんでしょう新しいディスコース生まれるみたいな話をまあビップからちょっとだけ伸ばそうとしてくれたやつをいい具合にとってエンゲージって言える。
いやなんか the reason why they oppose in the first place is because of なんか doctrine, so they will still like なんか first like it's based なんか their entire case is kind of based on the idea that some doctrine is more important than other doctrine. でそれは結構わかんないなんか、I don't think
どっちが大事かわかんなかった。
なんかそれは本当にステートメントだけでなんか説明がなかった。だからでも取りたいなら全然いいんだけど。
お茶出してました。そうお家がお茶出してるからすでに。まあどうすればいいんだろう。なんかあるかな他にいい雰囲気が。G っぽい。
可能性わかんない。具体性。エンゲージメントとか、エンゲージメントなんか OO は OG に対するで CG は OO に対する。
そうやな。エンゲージで言ったら OO の方がしてんのかな。
CG 結局インゲージはしてるけど OG のツール使ってるだけじゃない。
でコンストであんま差がつかねえっていうことにして、じゃあエンゲージにもいいよねってなった時にお互い逆サイドにエンゲージできてるのは応なんじゃねってのは確かに今のところ僕の中でしくいた。いけるか。でもあれか、一応応のアーギュメントも、まあ、側の言うほどのエクステントがそんなにないっていう反応もあって、ある程度そのでかいハーマーないとは取られてるけど、まあ、一応ちょっとファンドが減るっていうところまでは証明してると思って、そうするとちょっとハーマー立ってるってこと
なくなるまではないと思うけど、ハンドル減る。
あと一つ思ったのは、応ってファンドがなくなって、リリジャスアダプションエージェンシーになくなっていくじゃないですか。でもオルタナティブで他のノンリリジャスなエージェンシーがあるって言ってて、そこ何が問題か分からなかった。それ一つありました。
ああ、でもそれに比べてここはちゃんとなんかリリジャスオーガナイゼーションの大事さについてした。
なんか単純に応を聞いてて、そこはしっくりこなかった。
そっか、しっくりこないだけ。
デビューしてたこと
まあ混乱したんだしね。
混乱した応と混乱してない CG みたいな。CG のレスポンスはちょっと応じてかぶってるのが痛いよな。ちょっと頑張れ。どうしようか、どうやって差つくか。歌がめっちゃあるって言ってるよ。ああ、ね。確かにそれ取ったら、塩だけどね、取ったら、確かにだいぶメインハンバーなくなるんですよね、応の。そもそもだいぶ削られてたっていうのと、自分らが出してるためによって、あれみたいな、じゃあ大丈夫なんじゃないってなっちゃったっていう話。で、だいぶそのクレジットがないときに CG は、まあ、わかる。違う視点で、ちゃんとモーションをディナイする、なんか話を持ってきてくれて、
もう一つ思ったのは、なんか OG ってだいぶパッショナイトな話ではあったと思うんですけど、なんかコンクルーシブな話だったかっていうと、そこまでなんか思ってなくて、なんかかわいそうかわいそうかわいそうって言って、で、チャンス増えますみたいな。なんか本当にチャンスが本当に今の今までなくて、本当にそんなアージェントな問題なかったけど、なんか普通にいろんなセンセックスカップルじゃなくてもいろんなカップルがいるわけで、そこもよく分からなかったことを割と CG ってセンセックスカップルが新しく、まあ、ポテンシャルなペアレンティングやることによって使われることも増えるし、まあ、そのカップルたちもいい思いするし、すごくいかないって話で、結構コンクルードした CG な気がしたんですけど。
子供へのベネフィットは OG で分かっちゃったな、普通に。
まあ、私 OG で取った話は、なんか、why we need to prioritize children の話の方が、
そうですね。
そこまでコンフリクトがあったと。
確かにプライオリティを示してると思います。
レスポンシビリティな話
だから別にこの決断がなくても、ここは完全に勝つ。
まあそうですね。OG と音楽で確実に勝ってはいると思います。
いや、でも、そうだけど、なんか、in terms of contribution to win、なんかその結論を書く、なんかコントリビューションが取りたいなら、そんなにこのディベートとして、not very important な、それがなくても、
まあそうですね、それもできると思うんで、まあ一応迷うところでは。
OG のが一番つきやすい気がするな。
そこは全然大丈夫。
今僕の中ではその説が応のちょっとコントラチックな分析、まあ CG のまあ一応一貫したやつより弱いんじゃないか説が有力なんだけどどうかな。まあ両方バッテやしな。両方バッテるかった。
もう一個書いてるやつから
今、ごめんなさい、ロールフルフィルメントではどうなんですか？
ロールフィルメントとかじゃあもし分かんないなってなってて、
インゲージだったら
インゲージだったらちょっと追うのはよくねってなったと。追うのはよくね。
コンシスタンシーだったら CG。
もう一個あるようになりますか？具体性？具体性？
インパクト。
インパクト？
でもインパクトは結局。
インパクトは結局な。
でも応のエンゲージって OG の何潰してました？なんか数があるのは分かるんですけど、エフェクティブだったかっていうとそんなに分かんなかったんですよ。
まあオルタの話を言って一応 PM の話を頑張って削ろうとして、だからまあ DLO がその DPM が言ってたそのある程度アイドルに似たようなやつらのとこから子供いたりするみたいな話とかにレスポンスしてないで結構クルシャなところには実はあんましレスポンスしてない説を唱える。まあありそれはあり。
CG は何を
でも
そう
CG もでも何も No agencies, so some babies are not adopted.
いい感じいい感じ
No agencies versus なんか some children don't have parents のコンパリが結構したと思う。
インパクト落ちきった時の
そうですね。
コンパリはしっかりしてくれてると思って、それはすごい良かった。
それはリアクティブ。
それなんか落ちきってないなってのが多分なんかあるんだよな。でもやっぱ落ちきってないの理由がそもそも反応されてるってのと自分でコントロールして。
もう終わってるから大丈夫。
終わってからまあ一体は残るから。どうしようか。他に苦しいことないかな。ぽいで見る。ぽいで大倉だったかな。大倉 CG の側一部にアザーリーダスエージェンシーのみたいな話があったやん。あれは別にどうなんだろう。そのぽいで見るのはレジティメットなのかな。
誰のぽい？
大から来た
ガバイプ
ガバイプに対して
ってのがあって、答えではなかった気がする。あんまし、それどうやったらいいかな。
残ってたかなとは思います。なんか仕様からもしつこく来てましたよ。
そこにレスポンスってことかな。
参考の意図を読み取れなかった。
それもちょっとだけあった。なんか多分他もあるやんって話を多分したかったんだよ、多分。
そうですね。
自分たちの話が立った上での攻撃だったんですよ。
だってやな、俺となんかあるっていう話をしました。自分たちの話だったらこの人の歯向けるからな。
なんか思ったのはさ、なんか CG がずっと自分のゴールはなんか children を守るんじゃん。でもそれに比べてなんか O が自分のゴールを押すだけではなく、like they also explain like how they protect children better with the comparison of what happens when there's no だからなんかここはなんかちゃんと相手のゴールにエンゲージしたんだけど、ここは相手のゴールの話は全然しなかった。
多分 CG をそれしてるつもりがあって、なんでかっていうとそのファンド減らないよねっていう前提を築いてるから、そもそもそっちの方がその親の権利とか子供の権利に保障できるからベターだよねっていうのは、CG の説明としてはコンクルーシブだと思います。
でもそれはなんか自分のゴールと相手のゴールをコンパリするのなんかクライテリアになれるかな、このディベートを見るとき、
ただ CG の見方としては、OG がもう大殺しちゃってるからそこ無理じゃんっていうことなんですよね。
だからエンゲージが少なかったんですかね。
いや、でも似てたりな。
同じようなエンゲージする必要ないじゃんと思うんですけど。
だからなんかOG がちゃんとエンゲージしたんだから CG も実はなんかエンゲージする可能性がないだからエンゲージで見るべきではない。
逆にこれ以上大い何すればいいのかなっていうのはすごくCG は。
なんか CG から出たエクステンションでなんかセンボルハピネスみたいなこと言ってたじゃないですか。
インパクトを追加するんですけど、あんま必要ない気がするけど。
頑張っていく。
そうですね。
で、ウェイクアップコーとかも言いながらも結局なんかそこでのすごいちっちゃくはなるんだけども、なんかそのドクトリン自体を変えるつもりはないけれどもウェイクアップコーになるよねっていうところも何がゴールなのか結構クルージングカバー見えなかった部分は思ってて。
それはなんか私書いたのは What is your goal? で他のチームが全部ゴール書いた。
チュートで言いながら持ったしな。
多分インパクトがなかったから見えにくかったのもさらにあって、クルージングカバー何したんだろうって感じで思ったんですけど。なんか一個あればもう一個のところ
かわいそう
そのディスカッションだけになるけど。まずに
頑張ります。
ですか？
今いい感じ楽しい。
あと少し。
シーズンレスポンスないのな。CEO がその CEO もちょっと出てくるけど、CEO がさ大かぶってるからさ、またその CEO に反応することもできないやん。CG って。そこでちょっとレスポンスでみんな良くないっていうアナザーリーズンが出てるかもしれない。大と CEO かぶってて、大が結構大陣やってる時にそんなにレスポンスできないのに結構頑張って他の人に達したんじゃないっていう言い方ができる。
でも CG は新しい話ができないとは言えない。なんか、OG は全部の話取ったわけではない。だからサブスタンティブの方で
そうで僕らは新しいと思ってるけど、そんな新しいと思ってないのか。
まあ私だってなんか、まあ、コントラスタンだからまあ CG になるよ。
それが今のところ一番僕はしっかり言ってるけど。だってあれかな、どのくらいなんだかな。応募をサポートする理由は、まあ、CG のやつがコンストがいけてないんじゃないだから。
そうですね。
結構怒られたので
荷物整理します。
本当にします。もうちょっとだけ荷物整理しながらやって、あれ出なかったら本当にします。CG のコンストいけてない理由は何やったっけ？その入熱自体は別にあると思うんだけどな。入熱があってコンストが時間にされて消えてないといけないから、そもそもシンボルオブラブかどうかわかんないみたいな。
コントラスタルしたから
でも別にコントラストなかったらなんかただもう一回なんか相手がいたものを言ったんだけど、それは
なんかコントラストのともう一回同じこと言ってんだったら
同じこと言ってる。
クローズイングとかなんかその
その全然違うと思ってたから、そこだけはそのペアレントライティングとか。本当は特にこんだけ競ってる時に自分らのケースで結構ディナイしちゃうようなコントラしてる時にちょっといい感じに理由にしやすいぐらいの取り方してる。それがそうそう、別にそんなめっちゃ取りたいわけじゃん。あ、そうか、先に点数やね。王子と1位は DPM めっちゃ高いよな。
DPM は82。
PM
意外。いや、意外。
もうちょい高くていいかな。
もうちょっといいんじゃない。
80しようか。80にしようか。で、CO。
スピーカーランキング入れないから大丈夫。CO は私77です。
優しい。でも全然。
ジャッジテスト見た？結構その
でもあれでいいな、確かに。あれで言ったら85点も出そうな気もする。
76とかでいいや。
私77した。まあ何でもいい。
76いいかな。77じゃないけど。はい。あ、見せた。76な。ここや。
1点の差にしよう。
そうやね。で、どうする？もう
ボードしようか。
ボードにする？ボードしましょう。ボードってどうやってする？はい、いいか。じゃあ CG 派か O 派ね。CG 派の人。O 派の人。O で。
あ、ごめんなさい。ごめんなさい、CG。
信用したな。すごいな、見えた。
だからこの人がってなって。
急にすごい説得されたんだな。
そう、何かを超えたんだって。じゃあ CG が見ていいですか？
めっちゃ悩みがしてたんだ。
で CG の MG とかバイクどっちがいいかな。
メンバーの方が良かったな。
メン
バー81か80がいいかな。
いやー、そこまでいけないでしょう。なんかここ76で上げたら結構そんなに778
787がいい。
そうですね。で DLO が一番低い。
で76にしよう。で78でいいか。
はい。違うじゃん。これこれ3位ですね。これより高い。
なんか同じ間違いしてます。
何が起きてる？
ここ2位じゃない。だからここの方が高い。今の点数なら。
76、70。
78やこれ。これどういうこと？僕の字が来たいんだ。78やでまず合計点任せていい？
いいっすよ。合計点任せても。
これ当てるな。OG と CG やな。
ランキングだけつけてくれたら
で、
間違いないよ。
OG と OG が1位で CG 2位ですね。はい。
これカメラどうするの？ It's all recorded now.
いやーやばい
どういうコンセントする？
怖い
別に別にミーニングとかディスカッションしてないから、いやでも結構頑張ってるな。
これどうしたらいいのこれ？
いやまあもういいや
Oh yeah.
これで
持っていけばいいかな。
多分なんか録音として。
高橋さんのやつ？じゃあ決めて持ってこうか僕は。